What if the dream solo flight turns into a nightmare for a black boy? It was supposed to be a thrilling adventure, but an unexpected cruel act changed everything. No one could have predicted that this single moment would spark a series of events that unravel the mystery and leads to an unexpectedly powerful turning point. Welcome to our channel, where we bring you heartwarming stories filled with inspiration, courage, and unexpected turns. If you like our content, please click the subscribe button, share the channel to spread the word to more people. Let's explore the extraordinary journey of a boy. Ethan, a happy and well-traveled 12-year-old boy, is filled with excitement as he prepares for his first visit. This was a special day for him, and he had carefully picked out his outfit: a crisp white polo shirt with tiny airplane patterns, a pair of clean dark blue jeans, and his favorite bright red sneakers with white stripes. Around his neck hung a small silver necklace with a pendant shaped like an airplane, a gift from his mother for good luck. His black backpack, neatly packed with snacks, a toy plane, and a book about airplanes, reflected his love for flying. With his mother's encouraging words in mind, Ethan felt ready to embark on his first big adventure. The airport was bustling with travelers, and Ethan stood out, not because of his size or appearance, but because of the enthusiasm and joy radiating from him. He confidently walked towards the gate after a warm goodbye hug from his mom. This was his moment to feel like a real traveler, just like the people he admired on TV. As he approached the gate, he noticed Margaret, the air hostess, standing at the entrance, greeting passengers with a polite smile. Dressed in a sharp navy blue uniform, with her hair neatly tied up, she seemed welcoming at first glance. However, the moment her eyes landed on Ethan, her expression changed. The warmth in her smile vanished, replaced by a tight-lipped, disapproving look. Ethan, eager to follow the rules and make a good impression, smiled politely and approached her. "Where's your guardian?" Margaret asked sharply, her tone colder than expected. Ethan explained cheerfully that he was flying alone, showing her the ticket hanging around his neck. But Margaret didn't seem impressed. She scrutinized the ticket with unnecessary intensity, her expression suggesting she was searching for a reason to deny him entry. After a pause, she finally handed it back and said flatly, "All right, fine, but don't cause any trouble." Ethan felt a pang of confusion and disappointment. He had noticed how Margaret greeted other passengers warmly, guiding them to their seats with smiles and occasional jokes. Yet her demeanor towards him was starkly different. Unsure of what he had done to provoke her reaction, Ethan decided to brush it off, hoping it was just a misunderstanding. Once on board, Ethan found his window seat and eagerly began unpacking his small toy plane, ready to enjoy the experience. He placed his backpack neatly under the seat, careful to follow the instructions his mother had given him. Just as he started to get comfortable, Margaret appeared again, looming over him with her arms crossed. "What are you doing?" she demanded, her voice sharp enough to draw the attention of nearby passengers. Startled, Ethan replied quietly, "I'm just playing with my toy." "Well, put it away and sit properly," she snapped, her tone unnecessarily harsh. Embarrassed and confused, Ethan quickly complied, his cheeks flushing red. He noticed the surprised looks from other passengers, some of whom exchanged uneasy glances. Despite the growing tension, Ethan remained silent, unwilling to make a scene. He thought perhaps Margaret was simply having a bad day and decided not to let her behavior ruin his excitement. As the flight continued, Ethan observed how differently Margaret interacted with other passengers. She smiled warmly at adults, cracked jokes, and even helped one man adjust his oversized hat. Yet whenever she passed by Ethan's row, her expression hardened, and she avoided looking directly at him. Ethan couldn't understand why she was treating him this way. He had done everything right, followed the rules, stayed polite, and avoided causing trouble. The stark contrast between her warmth towards others and her coldness towards him weighed heavily on his young heart. Ethan tried to enjoy the flight, gazing out the window and imagining the adventures awaiting him at his grandparents' house. But Margaret's behavior lingered in his mind, casting a shadow over the excitement he had felt earlier. As the plane prepared for takeoff, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that he was being singled out unfairly. Little did he know, this moment was just the beginning of an experience that would reveal unexpected truths and change everything. Ethan's dream of a magical solo journey had turned into an unsettling experience. He couldn't understand why he was treated so differently from others, and the uncertainty gnawed at him. Despite his best efforts to remain optimistic, Margaret's cold and dismissive behavior left a mark, making him question if he had done something wrong. But this wasn't the end of Ethan's story. It was merely the start of a journey that would not only uncover the truth, but also bring him a chance to stand up for himself and inspire change. As the flight began to prepare for takeoff, Ethan tried to settle into his seat, determined to enjoy his journey despite the earlier tension. However, Margaret, the air hostess, soon returned to his row. With her arms crossed and a stern expression, she accused Ethan of causing trouble, her voice loud enough to draw attention from nearby passengers. Ethan, confused and visibly upset, insisted that he hadn't done anything wrong. He had followed all the instructions, remained polite, and had kept to himself. Margaret, however, refused to listen. Her tone grew sharper as she declared that Ethan was disrupting the flight and would need to leave. The young boy's heart sank. His excitement turned to panic as he pleaded with her, explaining that he didn't want to miss his trip to visit his grandparents. But Margaret's decision was final. She motioned for him to gather his belongings, and Ethan, trying to hold back tears, slowly packed his backpack. As Ethan walked down the aisle, with Margaret following closely behind, passengers exchanged uneasy glances. Some whispered among themselves, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. Many had seen how Margaret had treated Ethan throughout the boarding process, and they noticed how different her attitude had been compared to her warm treatment of others. However, no one spoke up to defend him, leaving the young boy to face the situation alone. Back at the airport, Ethan sat in the terminal, clutching his backpack tightly, tears streaming down his face. His mother, alerted by a frantic call from the airline staff, rushed back to find her son. Overwhelmed with both anger and concern, she hugged Ethan tightly as he explained through sobs what had happened. The unfairness of it all was painfully clear, and she vowed to get answers. Ethan's mother rushed into the airport terminal, her heart racing after receiving a call from the airline staff. When she saw Ethan sitting on a bench, clutching his backpack with tear-streaked cheeks, her heart broke. She knelt down in front of him, wiping his tears and pulling him into a tight embrace. "What happened, sweetheart?" she asked gently, her voice trembling. Ethan explained through sobs how Margaret, the air hostess, had accused him of causing trouble and forced him off the plane. "But I didn't do anything wrong, Mom, I swear," he said, his voice cracking. Hearing this, Ethan's mother felt a surge of anger and determination. Her son had been looking forward to this day for weeks, and the joy that had lit up his face earlier was now replaced with confusion and sadness. Standing up, she held Ethan's hand firmly and marched to the airline counter. The staff behind the desk immediately noticed her distress and tried to calm her down. "I need to speak to someone in charge," she demanded, the distress turning to firmness in her voice. "I want to know why my son was removed from that flight, and I'm not leaving until I get answers." The airline staff, clearly taken aback, apologized and assured her that they would escalate the matter. A supervisor, Mr. Harris, arrived shortly after and listened as Ethan's mother recounted the events. She described how excited Ethan had been about his first solo flight and how meticulously he had prepared for it. Her voice wavered with emotion as she explained how Margaret's cold and unfair behavior had crushed his enthusiasm and left him in tears. Mr. Harris listened attentively and assured her that the airline took such matters seriously. "We'll investigate this immediately," he promised. "This kind of behavior is unacceptable and we'll get to the bottom of it." He also informed her that the airline would provide Ethan with a new ticket for the next available flight, free of charge, and promised that the staff on board would ensure he had a safe and pleasant experience. While Ethan's mother appreciated the gesture, she wasn't fully satisfied. "What about the air hostess?" she asked pointedly. "Will she just walk away from this without consequences?" Mr. Harris hesitated before replying. "We'll need to conduct a full review before taking any action, but I assure you this won't be ignored." As Ethan and his mother sat in the waiting area with the new ticket in hand, she held his face gently and said, "Listen to me, Ethan. You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes people act unfairly and it's not your fault. We're going to fix this." Although Ethan still felt hurt and confused, he nodded, trusting his mother's determination. She silently vowed to ensure that Margaret's behavior would not go unnoticed, setting the stage for the events that would follow. The airline quickly began its investigation into the incident after Ethan's mother's strong complaint. Mr. Harris, the supervisor, assured her that they would thoroughly review the matter. The team examined footage from both the airport and the flight, which clearly captured Margaret's interactions with Ethan. The recording showed her warm and accommodating behavior toward other passengers, contrasting sharply with her cold, dismissive attitude towards Ethan. Her sharp tone, unnecessary scrutiny of his ticket, and unfounded accusations of causing trouble were all documented, leaving no doubt about the unfair treatment Ethan had endured. The evidence was undeniable. Mr. Harris and the airline's senior management were deeply troubled by what they saw. Ethan had done nothing to warrant such treatment. It was clear he had followed all the rules and behaved politely throughout the process. Margaret's actions were not only inappropriate, but also discriminatory. The airline's leadership recognized the seriousness of the situation and acted swiftly to address it. To begin repairing the damage, the airline issued a formal public apology to Ethan and his family. The statement acknowledged the unfair treatment Ethan had experienced and expressed regret for the emotional distress it caused him. "We deeply apologize to Ethan and his family for this unacceptable incident," the statement read. "Our team is committed to ensuring that every passenger is treated with respect and dignity. We are taking immediate steps to address this situation and prevent similar occurrences in the future." Margaret, the air hostess responsible for the incident, was removed from duty pending further investigation. The airline explained that her actions would be reviewed thoroughly and appropriate disciplinary measures would follow. For Ethan's mother, this was a step in the right direction, but she remained determined to see the matter fully resolved. News of the airline's apology and Margaret's suspension quickly spread. Other passengers who had been on the flight began sharing their own observations of her behavior, many expressing support for Ethan and his family. The swift action by the airline reassured the public that such behavior would not be tolerated, marking the beginning of justice being served for Ethan and his family. The next day, Ethan and his mother returned to the airport, this time with cautious optimism. The airline had rebooked Ethan's flight, and the staff greeted them warmly upon arrival. From the moment they reached the check-in counter, Ethan noticed a difference. A smiling airline representative walked up to them and said, "Good morning, Ethan. We're so glad to have you flying with us today. Please follow me." Ethan and his mother exchanged curious glances as they were led to a private lounge near the gate. Inside the lounge, they met Mr. Harris, the supervisor from the day before, along with a small team of airline staff. "Ethan, we want to make sure today's flight is a wonderful experience for you," Mr. Harris said, kneeling down to Ethan's eye level. "We're incredibly sorry for what happened and so proud of how brave you've been. To show our appreciation, we have a little surprise for you." Ethan's eyes widened in anticipation as Mr. Harris continued. "Before your flight takes off, the captain would like to invite you into the cockpit to see how everything works. And, if you'd like, you can even help make the takeoff announcement to the passengers." Ethan's face lit up with excitement. "Really? I can go inside the cockpit?" he asked, hardly believing his ears. "Absolutely," Mr. Harris replied with a warm smile. When it was time to board, Ethan and his mom were escorted to the plane ahead of the other passengers. The captain, a kind man with a reassuring smile, greeted them at the door. "Hello, Ethan," he said. "I heard about what happened, and I want you to know how brave you've been. Come with me. I think you're going to love this." Ethan stepped into the cockpit, his eyes wide as he took in the array of buttons, levers, and screens. It was like a dream come true for the young aviation enthusiast. The captain patiently explained how the controls worked. even letting Ethan press a button that illuminated the seatbelt sign. Ethan couldn't contain his excitement, and his mother, watching from the doorway, couldn't help but smile as she saw the joy return to her son's face. As the boarding process continued, the captain handed Ethan a microphone. "Would you like to say something to the passengers before we take off?" he asked. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath and spoke. "Hi, everyone," he began, his voice a little shaky, but growing stronger with every word. "My name is Ethan, and I just want to thank you for flying with us today. I'm really excited to be here, and I hope we all have a great flight." The passengers erupted into applause, some cheering and even shouting words of encouragement. Ethan beamed with pride, his earlier worries fading away. As he returned to his seat, several passengers smiled at him, offering kind words and nods of support. It was clear they were rooting for him. Throughout the flight, Ethan was treated like a VIP. The flight attendants checked on him regularly, offering him snacks and even letting him choose a special drink from the menu. Passengers continued to smile and wave at him, and Ethan felt more confident with each passing moment. The warmth and kindness shown to him transformed the experience into something unforgettable. When the plane landed, the captain once again invited Ethan to speak over the intercom. This time, Ethan's voice was filled with confidence as he thanked everyone for their kindness and wished them a wonderful day. As they disembarked, passengers clapped for him, and one person even said, "You're a hero, Ethan." For Ethan, what had started as a nightmare had turned into an empowering experience. He left the plane with his head held high, knowing he had overcome something difficult and found courage in the process. As he and his mother walked out of the terminal, she hugged him tightly. "I'm so proud of you," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "You turned something hard into something amazing." Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment he would never forget. Following the airline's investigation into the incident with Ethan, conclusive evidence surfaced, exposing Margaret's pattern of unfair treatment, particularly toward children flying alone. The video footage from both the airport and the flight clearly showed how she had singled out Ethan with her unnecessarily harsh behavior. Further examination of past records revealed that this wasn't the first complaint against Margaret. Previous reports, mostly from parents and guardians of young travelers, had detailed similar accounts of her unprofessional and discriminatory conduct. However, those cases had not been thoroughly addressed until now. With the evidence undeniable, the airline took immediate action. Margaret was suspended from her duties while a full investigation into her history was conducted. In a meeting with senior management, Mr. Harris informed her of the decision. "Your treatment of Ethan was not only unacceptable, but also indicative of a larger issue that we cannot ignore," he stated firmly. Margaret attempted to defend herself, but her excuses were met with a clear message. Such behavior had no place in the airline's operations. The suspension marked a turning point in the company's approach to handling complaints and ensuring accountability. In addition to Margaret's suspension, the airline announced a series of changes to prevent similar incidents in the future. They introduced mandatory training programs for all staff, emphasizing empathy, inclusivity, and the importance of treating every passenger with respect, regardless of age, background, or circumstances. A new reporting system was also implemented, allowing passengers to provide feedback directly to management, ensuring that complaints would be taken seriously and addressed promptly. The airline also issued a public statement reaffirming its commitment to creating a safe and welcoming environment for all passengers. "We deeply regret the treatment Ethan experienced and are taking immediate steps to ensure this never happens again. Every passenger deserves to be treated with dignity and respect," the statement read. While Margaret faced the consequences of her actions, the airline's swift response sent a clear message that discriminatory behavior would not be tolerated, paving the way for a more inclusive and compassionate travel experience for all. Ethan's story quickly gained traction online after his mother shared their experience on social media. She detailed how her son had been unfairly treated and removed from the flight by Margaret despite doing nothing wrong. Her heartfelt post resonated deeply with people, and it didn't take long for it to go viral. Comments flooded in from individuals who were shocked and outraged by the incident. as well as from others who had faced similar situations but had never spoken up. Ethan's bravery in facing such an unfair ordeal became a source of inspiration for many. Parents of children who had traveled alone shared their own stories of how their kids had been treated poorly or overlooked during flights. Some even recounted interactions with Margaret describing similar behavior that had gone unaddressed until now. Ethan's story became a rallying point, encouraging people to break their silence and call for accountability. The airline's swift response added to the widespread attention. Their public apology, along with the announcement of Margaret's suspension and the introduction of new policies, was widely praised. Many commended the company for taking decisive action rather than dismissing the complaint, as had happened with previous reports. "This is how you handle a mistake, with transparency, accountability, and a commitment to do better," one comment read. Ethan's mother received countless messages of support from strangers and other families who had experienced similar issues. "Thank you for standing up for your son and for all of us who've been mistreated," one message said. The overwhelming support strengthened her resolve to ensure that Margaret's actions wouldn't be swept under the rug. She continued engaging with the airline and sharing updates about the case, ensuring the public stayed informed. Media outlets soon picked up the story, further amplifying its reach. Interviews with Ethan's mother highlighted the emotional toll the incident had taken on her son, but also the resilience he had shown in overcoming it. Some reporters even reached out to passengers who had been on Ethan's flight, and they described the unfair treatment they had witnessed. Their voices added credibility to the story and reinforced the need for systemic change within the airline industry. As the story gained momentum, the airline reaffirmed its commitment to improving its policies and restoring public trust. They shared details of the new measures being implemented, including enhanced staff training on inclusivity and the creation of a dedicated team to address passenger concerns. These efforts were well received, with many viewing them as meaningful steps toward ensuring that incidents like Ethan's would not happen again. For Ethan, the support meant the world. Knowing that his experience had inspired others to speak out made him feel like his voice had made a difference. "I just want other kids to feel safe and happy when they fly," he said in a short statement his mother shared online. His courage had sparked a conversation that reached far beyond the airport, shining a light on the importance of treating all passengers, especially the youngest and most vulnerable, with fairness and respect. Ethan finally arrived at his grandparents' house, greeted with hugs and warm smiles. They had been eagerly waiting for him and were overjoyed to see him safe and sound. As they sat together on the porch, Ethan recounted his journey, both the challenges he faced and the unforgettable moments of triumph. He spoke about the kindness of the passengers, the apology from the airline, and his incredible experience in the cockpit. His grandparents listened intently, their faces filled with pride and admiration for their brave grandson. The ordeal had been difficult, but it left Ethan with a newfound confidence. Despite the unfair treatment he endured, he realized the power of standing up for what was right and the importance of resilience in the face of adversity. The overwhelming support he received from strangers, the passengers on his flight, and the airline staff reminded him that there is more kindness in the world than cruelty. Sitting on the porch that evening, watching the sun set over the horizon, Ethan couldn't help but reflect on how the experience had changed him. It strengthened his resolve to treat everyone with fairness and compassion, no matter the circumstances. The memory of being invited into the cockpit stayed with him, sparking an idea that filled him with excitement. Maybe one day he could become a pilot. He imagined himself flying planes, ensuring that every passenger felt welcome and valued, just as he wished he had felt when his journey began. As his grandparents hugged him tightly and praised his courage, Ethan felt a sense of closure. What had started as a heartbreaking experience ended with hope and inspiration. His story became more than just about overcoming unfair treatment. It was about finding strength, embracing kindness, and dreaming big despite the obstacles. Ethan's adventure had truly shaped him in ways he would carry forward for years to come. Ethan's story is a powerful reminder of the importance of courage, resilience, and kindness. Despite facing unfair treatment, Ethan stood strong, inspiring others to speak out against injustice. His journey highlights the value of standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult, and the impact of compassion in transforming negative experiences into moments of growth. It also shows how support from others can make a difference, giving strength to those who feel vulnerable. Ethan's bravery not only changed his own experience, but also sparked meaningful change within the airline, ensuring a better future for others. His story encourages us all to treat one another with respect and kindness every single day. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this story as much as we loved sharing it with you before you left. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you more heartwarming stories. And let us know in the comments what you're watching from. We can't wait to hear from you. To meet you in the next story.